Managing nuclear power and waste. Tactics that protect people in place. In Port Hope, a river bends around old low-level waste sites the way it always has. Soft, patient. When the new monitoring plan rolled out, the town didn't wait for Ottawa or Ontario to translate the pamphlets. Miriam, who runs the bakery, had loaf and listen nights in the back room, and CNSC officer brought printouts. Camo, a retired millwright, taped them to the wall beside his hand-drawn map of groundwater flow. They started small weekly along the waterfront walks with yellow notebooks, writing down anything odd. A sheen near a storm drain, a manhole cover that hummed, that hummed after heavy rain. High school students logged GPS points. Eva, an artist from Northumberland, printed blue heron cards and marked safe observation spots. It became quite a good game for the students. When a summer thunderstorm overwhelmed Drainage Gate Grate near historic burial site, it was Camo's group that spotted the backed up water first. They called the municipality, but they also called each other. Uh, Point is, the similar things that people act toward are just as essential for safety. Spread awareness with friends, family, school, and work. Uh, Now, to get a grounding, high level radioactive waste, intermediate level radioactive waste, low level radioactive waste, and nuclear fuel spent are categories of nuclear waste. The most radioactive being high level, the byproduct of nuclear power, mainly spent fuel rods or liquid waste. Significant heat requires heavy shielding from long-term isolation, typically deep geographical disposal. Intermediate contains higher radioactivity than low-level waste, often from reactor components, resins, and chemical sludges. Low-level waste is more things like gloves or wipes. They can be incinerated at times, but the ashes still need to be monitored. Nuclear fuel that has been used in a reactor and removed because it no longer sustains efficient chain reaction, though in some cases some countries can recycle them a few times before uh, properly disposed of. Minimization and treatment. Design choices that reduce volume. Fuel burning transmutation to burn the long-lived acids in decays per second in activity or mass grams, kilograms in accounting into shorter-lived fission products, shrinking hazard duration. Partitioning is another aspect you can go about. There's separate waste streams chemically, uranium, plutonium, minor actinides, and heat generators, so you can burn some, vitrify others, and tailor disposal. Together they reduce volume and longevity of high-level waste, but they're more complex and costly methods. Glass and ceramic locks are a debate. Today's power plants use borosilicate glass because it's proven. Radionuclides bond in an amorphous matrix. They pour them into canisters and eventually casks. And well. But ceramics, like sand rock, mimic natural minerals. They can host particular actinides even more tightly and resist water better. But they are not mainstream. In practice, glass is the workhorse, and ceramics are a promising complement to the partitioning pulls certain elements out of tailored immobilization. Now for other things you can do: compaction, super compaction, and incineration. You can crush the low level waste into drums. It cuts volume and keeps simple. Super compaction is a massive force, but needs robust packaging. Burns combustible LLW in incineration. Ashes compacted or vitrified. Biggest volume cut, but requires gas and treatment and permits. Examples are like Ontario's Western Waste Management Facility. Uh, Now onto interim storage. Wet to dry storage, sealed steel containers used for reactor sites, portable passive cooling, easy monitoring, good for pools to dry transition. Vaults, below ground engineering buildings and hold multiple casks or cans. They hold multiple of these and centralized, easier to secure, and a long-term stewardship, but less mobile. Three things to consider are passive cooling, steel canisters, and sealed canisters and monitoring. Now for safety and security, physical protection, accountancy, safety cases, regulatory oversight, emergency planning, and cybersecurity are the main. In physical protection, barriers, access control, guards, surveillance around casks and vaults. In accountancy, tracking inventories of nuclear materials, mass and activity with audits. In safety cases, passive cooling, confinement, shield checks, regulatory oversight, licenses, inspections, and reporting. Emergency planning, drills, off-site response. Cybersecurity is protecting, monitoring, controlling systems. In transportation, there's Type A for low-level material, including water spray, free drop, and stacking. Type B for high-activity heat, for things like 800 degrees Celsius fire for 30 minutes, or 9-meter drop, puncture, deep immersion. And Type C is the same rigor for airport transport. Industrial IP for low-level bulk, less demanding tests. Now for routing and stakeholder notification and indigenous consultation, protocols, roughly 634 First Nation band governments are recognized by the Indigenous Services Canada, plus Métis organizations around the provinces. So councils number in the many hundreds, with dozens of Inuit, each self-governing community. Permanent disposal strategies. Permanent disposal strategies are things addressing groundwater seismicity, and thinking for the future with 10,000 years or more. Deep geological repository principles, setting multiple barriers, retrievability, buried waste deeply, typically 500 meters to a kilometer deep, in stable rock to isolate it for geologic time. Multiple barriers, like waste form, container, buffer, host rock. Favorable geology, like low water flow, sealing rock, valuable resources to attract intrusion. Passive safety, No need for active upkeep, rely on slow processes and long travel times, so any release is negligible by the time it reaches the biosphere. Canada's adaptive phase management. Adaptive phase management in Canada is a roadmap for used fuel. 3 million spent fuel bundles stay on site for now, but APM set a content-based path to a deep geological repository. The hallmark is stepwise learning. Store safely today, seek willing hosts tomorrow, and dispose permanently once confidence is earned. The process starts in reactor pools, moves to dry casks, then pending community agreement, a central underground site. Each step is reversible, contains remains retrievable for generations, while monitoring checks models. The technical core, a multiple barrier system, waste form, corrosion resistant container, and bentonite and rock, designed to outlast institutional control. Equally central architecture socially. The NWMO engages First Nation, Métis, and municipal partners as equals, funding independent reviews and embedding Indigenous law in site evaluation. No community is forced potential host, initiate studies, and retain veto rights. Adaptive phase management is not vague because regulators enforce milestones, design requirements, and safety cases. But APM accepts the climate, the policy, and knowledge will change. And marrying geology with governance, it aims the decision that both scientifically sound and socially sustained. Independent regulator role, community benefits agreements, local employment training, and keeping the skills pipeline strong are the governance, trust, and workforce of waste management. Anyway, the point is to reduce, contain, isolate, and involve. The call to action is to ask the hard questions, attend the meetings for hearings, and support training. Thank the audience. So thank you.